Hey, welcome to Parker's Reefs. In today's episode, we're going to investigate power and specifically the Arlec Grid Connect Wi-Fi power boards. All right, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we talk about reefing products. We do tank tours. I go to local shop crawls, various reefing events like that. So if you're new, please consider subscribing. Just hit the subscribe button down in the corner there. Take you 2 seconds of your time because you know many at all. For those who aren't new, welcome back. And today I wanted to talk about power. I'm looking at power distribution in my new tank and seeing how I can do that with the most tidiest solution, easy to access solution, most technologically advanced solution, and of course safest solution. Because power is one of those things that doesn't matter how big or small your reef tank is, we use a lot of it, we use a lot of our outlets, and I want to try and make it as safe as possible. So some of the things that I've done for my tank that I currently have will translate over to my new tank in that I have the system set up on its own circuit in the house so that it won't get it won't be affected if someone puts 5 toasters on the one outlet, or if they've got a hair straightener and a hair dryer or something running at the same time and it shorts a circuit there. My tank runs on its own circuit in the house, has its own safety switch and everything there. So that's taken care of, but it's really more a question of how we distribute the power to the huge number of devices we run in reef tanks, and then how we go about controlling them. Now, I'll show you what I've been using on my tank so far. And it's this mammoth of a unit here. This is a 19-inch rack, a server rack, sorry, and it's got 4 PDUs here. Now, this has served me well. I don't want to diss it. It's actually a fantastic little unit. I originally designed it to go on its side, but it didn't fit the space I had. So I put it upright. You've got this lit switches on the front here, so you can turn the things on and off. And if I turn it around, you'll see on this side, we've got all of the outlets, all of your devices plug in here. Then I had a little map, which one printout, highly technical stuff here, telling me what each one of the outlets was. So if I wanted to turn a particular pump on or off, I knew which one of the switches on the front to turn on or off. So this is obviously 4 units. It's got 4 leads. That'd plug into one power board off that circuit, and then everything ran off this unit here. Now, whilst that device was great, I'm going to put it down. There's a few things I didn't like about it. Firstly, it takes up a lot of space. Secondly, it's great when everything works well, when you've got everything in there routed nice and neatly behind the unit and everything's going great. It's all nice and tidy. It looks super impressive, this big power station. The problem was when things went wrong, you'd have to go ferreting in, trying to find which cable was which and pulling things out, and you'd end up trying to take one cable out, you'd pull another 4 cables out. In an emergency situation, it was an absolute pain. Now, the other issue I have with it is fitting timers on that beast was quite annoying. There's not enough room. If I get it back up here, there's not enough room to put timers on things in here, and there's not enough room to mount power bricks. So I ended up having to have little extension leads coming out of this onto then the power brick or onto the timer, and then when you have 20 or 30 extension leads coming off it, plus power bricks, plus timers, plus this, that, things quickly got out of hand, and it soon became that rat's nest that everyone's trying to avoid. So I figured I either need to rework this unit or investigate something different. And I must admit, I've been watching what everyone's using online lately, and on the Australian forums, there's been a lot of people talking about these units, the Arlec Grid Connect power boards. These are available at Bunnings Warehouse in Australia, and I'm sure there's similar versions of these in every other country. They appear to be a fairly standard sort of ESP286 Wi-Fi connected power board, which in layman's terms is just Wi-Fi controlled solenoids. So this little device is available through Bunnings. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to get an electrician or anything. It's got Australian plugs already on it. You plug it in, you download the app, and you can set some schedules and you can turn things on and off remotely. So I thought I'd grab one. They're only $30 or $40. I thought I'd grab one, and we'll just go through some of the features and have a look and see whether this or a series of these will be useful on my new tank upgrade. So let's grab the phone out, we'll download the app, and we'll install this unit and see how it works out. All right, so let's rip this unit open. I've got my phone here so I can, I've already got the app downloaded, but I'll be able to connect to this unit and then we'll test it out and see what sort of limitations this device has. So we'll get him open. It's got a little seal there for your protection, I guess. There are some instructions in there, but don't worry about those. Get that packaging aside. And you can see straight up, it looks like a pretty standard power board. There are no switches on here, which is one thing I have noticed. There's a little master switch to turn it on and off. You've got this one here that is always on. Now, Alec have a range of products. They've got different power boards. They've got individual switches. They've got all sorts of things. Check out the Grid Connect section at your Bunnings Warehouse, or I'll put a link to their products in the description down below. The board I've gone for has got 4 switchable outlets and 1 always on outlet. So if I don't drop it, I'll just take this tag off. All right, so you can see the length of the cord. It's not massive, but it should be long enough for most purposes. I'm going to plug this guy in. All right, I just moved camera angle because the cord is a little bit shorter than expected. So I've moved a little bit closer to the power point and it's turned, the power is turned on and the device is plugged in. Now you've got your switch there, which you can see you get a little LED indicator to say that all of them are on. Turn that and they all go off. Now I am curious to see if the always on goes on and off with that switch or not. So let's plug something in there. Just happen to have a neat little Kessel 880 here. Plug him in there. And yeah, the always on does stay on even when that's disconnected and connected. So if I were to switch that to there, we're now off. And if I press the button, we're on. Kessel on, Kessel off. All right, now, you don't buy these power boards if you want to press a switch to turn them on and off. Obviously, you want to set some schedules, some timers, and have the ability to control these from anywhere in the world. So let's jump into the app now. All right, now we're going to jump into the Grid Connect app, which is on my home screen here. All right, now you can see I've already got a few devices here. I've got a one for my frag tank. I've got a wall fan mounted outside, and I've also got one which was controlling the halides in my main tank, which you can see it's currently got that little exclamation mark there because it cannot find it. That's because it's not plugged into power at the moment because the halides are not on my tank at the moment. So to add this board here, we're going to click the plus. All right, so it says if the indicator on your Grid Connect device is blinking rapidly, skip the below steps. It's not blinking rapidly, it's doing nothing at the moment. So we've got to do these steps. Now, step 1 is plug the device into power, switch it on. Step 2 is to hold the button for 5 seconds. Step 3 is to confirm the indicator is blinking rapidly. So let's hold it for 5 seconds. 5. Okay, it's now blinking. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it is blinking. So we can go indicator is blinking rapidly. Now it's asking us to select our Wi-Fi network and it's very specifically saying 2.4 gigahertz. It cannot connect to 5 gigahertz. So we've got my Wi-Fi there. All right, now this device is connecting. Take a few seconds. It does give you little status updates as we go here. It'll tell us that it's finding the device, registered device to cloud, and initializing device. I have note that the flashing has gone off as we're stepping through these steps. Hopefully that's a good sign. Alrighty. All right, so the status went from 24% to 100%, but nonetheless it's connected. Gives us the opportunity to rename this, so I'm going to rename it now. I'm going to call it YouTube example. This is our YouTube example power board. Pleasure to meet you. And you can see that it's got a little logo for it there. If we go back to the main menu, jump back out there, you see it's got a little menu option up here saying that there's 4 outlets. So we're going to jump into that one. I can rename any of them. Let's have a look and see. I think this is one switch 4. We'll see if it's 1 or 4. Yep, that is switch 4. So we're going to rename that Kessel. All right, we might rename this other one something else. All right, so now we've got our master switch, so I can switch them all on, and you'll notice that all 4 of the lights came on, or I can individually switch them off. It's super responsive. It reacts very, very quickly, and I believe if I switch Wi-Fi off, I believe we still connect whether we're on the same network or not. So if I jump back in here, that turns them all on, which did work. So if I step through turning them all off, let's see how responsive it is. Okay, so we probably go from being about 1/4 of a second to about 1/2 a second when we're not on the same network, which is super, super impressive. Now, it's all good and well being able to turn these things on and off whether you're on the network or not. In fact, I'm just going to jump back on the network. Where its real benefit is, particularly for something like a Kessel 880, if you don't have the controller, if you want to set a schedule for this light so it just turns itself on and off, rather than having to get out the big, bulky manual timer, let's see what happens. So Kessel is on number 4. Let's go to the schedule here. We're going to add a schedule. Now you notice at the top here, you've got schedule, cycle, countdown, or timer. So you can have things turn on and off. For instance, if you want something to run for 5 minutes, turn off for 10 minutes, run for 5 minutes, turn off for 10 minutes. You can do that. We're just going to set a basic schedule, and we're going to say for every single day, so I'm going to tick every single day, we want you to turn on at 10:30 a.m. and turn off at 4, well, I may as well make it more realistic, 9:30 p.m. All right, now because we're between those 2 points, the light has turned on, which is pretty cool. And you'll notice that only the status light for that one is on, the others are still all off. Nifty, I will admit. All right, so that's our schedule. We can see that set there, happy days. Now we can come back to the main menu where we can see all of our devices, and it's all ticking along well there. I can turn on my wall fan outside if I want to, give the budgie a bit of breeze. I can go into my frag tank. I'll show you what's on the frag tank at the moment. I've got a few devices in here. I've got T5s, light fans, LEDs, and halides in there. They've all got their own schedules. Super nifty. But one thing that I really wanted to cover with this board was what happens if the power goes out. Because if the power goes out and then comes back on, the default setting for these devices so far is that they just remain off until you manually turn them on. Now, that's obviously no good if you're going to have your return pump or something plugged into these. I'm just going to move that Kessel away because I'm seeing stars. So if we had the power go out, for instance, if I turn the power off, all right, they all go off. Our Kessel's off. Imagine the Kessel's our return pump. And then we turn the power back on. The device goes through its little boot up and our return pump stays off. Not what we want at all. Now, I take that back. It's turned on. That's impressive. All right, so our power's off and our Kessel, imagine it's our return pump, has obviously got no power, so it's not firing. And then power is restored to the house. So we want this light to come back on. If you imagine it's something critical like a return pump or skimmer like that. Turn the power back on. We'll see the device, this little indicator flashed for a second to suggest that it's got power. The device is going to connect to the web, have a look at the cloud, and it should grab the status, and it has. It's turned the light on. That's because our schedule says that it should be on during this time. Now, I have seen other people, I'm just going to turn that off manually for a second. All right, I have seen other people build nifty little automations that will do this for them. All right, now the way they do that is you jump into your Grid Connect and you build a scene. Okay, so we go into scene here and we've got a trigger scene or an automation. All right, so we're going to add scene. Now what we're going to do is when any condition is met, we're going to add something in here and we're going to say device. We're going to say YouTube example when the master is off. Okay, so the master is this one here. So if something happens and the master turns off, I want you to turn this one, what we've got currently plugged in is our Kessel, but imagine it's something like a return pump. We're going to make sure that one turns back on. So we're going to add an action and we're going to device. We're going to YouTube example and then we're going to Kessel set to on, save. We're going to go next. Okay, so we've got the condition of when YouTube example, this power board, when the master is off, we want the YouTube example Kessel to turn on. Now you can give this a name. We're going to call this power outage. We can have it activate at specific times, give it a style, whatever it may be. We're going to set that. We're going to save that. Okay, so there we go. We've got our power outage set. So let's have a look. We'll turn that one back on. Turn that off. Along comes our power outage and the power goes off. We lose power to everything. Right, that happens, no dramas. Power comes back on. Device powers up. See it flashing for a second. It'll eventually connect to the cloud. It should switch this outlet back on. And there we have it. That's how we set these devices to have a power on or power off status. Now, of course, you could do exactly the same thing in the other direction. If you've got something that you don't want to turn back on, you can set that so when the master is off, make sure that you set it to off. The other thing is, I think if you turn the master off here, it will turn that back on. So that's the only downside to it. Because we've told this device when the master is off, turn this one back on. And when the one goes back on, it turns the master back on. So you end up being able to only turn this one off manually. So if I jump back into our app, we just turn it manually off and it will turn off. Worth noting though, if I turn everything off, it triggers the master. So if I turn them all off, it will turn the Kessil back on. So it's a little bit of a gotcha, but it is handy to know. Now, I've spoken to the Arlec team to see whether we can have a remember state so that we know when these things are going to turn that off. I'm hoping that the Arlec team can have a remember state setting so that if you have something that was turning on or off at a particular point in time and the power goes off or it loses connection, when the connection comes back on, that it remembers the state that it was. I have seen that in other devices that are similar to this, so I'm hoping that Arlec can pick that up as well. But all in all, for the price point, the ease of use, the app is free. You can set schedules for things. You can have access to turn things on or off should you need to. You can even group these and do some Google automations if you want to be able to say, hey, GOOGLE, water change, and have all of your skimmer, return pump, heater, whatever else, wave makers all turn off so you can do your water change, and then you can have one to say, hey, Mr. G, turn everything back on. And it'll turn all those devices back on, or water change finish, something like that. You can do all of that with these devices. Now, I'm an Apple user, and unfortunately this app does not have Siri integration, which is a little annoying, but so be it. We also have Google in the house, so if I really wanted to do that, I could. But realistically, I tend to put critical things not on voice control because I find it to be a little bit risky. You can be over here talking about your reef tank with a mate and these little smart devices here and turn things on or off without your knowledge. So I tend not to connect these to those cloud services, but I do like to have things like this. If you've got like a spare Android or a iPad or something, you could mount that up as a little display. Then you can manually turn things on. So you can have a little touch panel and you can mount that anywhere. There's obviously no wires coming from that. You can mount that anywhere around your reef tank and it gives you really quick access, just like my old switch panel, to be able to turn these things on and off. Not a bad idea, again, for the price. Anyway, guys, I think that's probably all I need to cover on the Grid Connect apps. If you've got any suggestions or questions or comments about these Arlec Grid power boards or something similar, feel free to let me know. I do feel like devices like this are starting to bridge the gap between talking $1,000 to $2,000 aquarium controllers and $30 to $40 power boards. The features that you can do with these go a long way to what a lot of people, and I'm not saying it's what you should use an aquarium controller for, but a long way to what people are using aquarium controllers for, and that's basically very simple schedules, being able to turn things on and off, and grouping things together so you can turn all of your wave makers on or off, or you can turn all your lights on or off, things like that, all in one place. If you can get a very similar sort of result with a $40 power board, it starts to make you question whether the aquarium controller is really for you. Now, of course, these things, they do have other sensors, so you can set things. If your temperature gets high, you can turn on a fan, yada, 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 all that. You obviously don't have pH controllers or conductivity meters or other devices like that. So there's still a fair way short of an aquarium controller, but we are talking a fraction of the cost. Anyway, guys, that's probably all I want to cover on the Arlec Grid Connect power board. Like I said, I just started kicking the tires on these because I I don't really want to put my huge power brick in my new aquarium. I want to do something a little bit more modern, a little bit cheaper, because those power boards are incredibly expensive compared to these ones. And I saw a lot of people using them and a few questions coming out. So I thought I would ask, I thought I'd give them a try, and I thought if I'm going to give it a try, I may as well get the camera out and do a video for you guys to see at home. Till next time, guys, stay safe, keep reefing. Cheers, bye.